So I also wanted to ask you about the COVID vaccine. I know that you're of the mind that vaccine skepticism is really indicative of a breakdown in the social order. And I do understand that perspective. But I guess I'm also wondering, do you believe that some of the COVID policies that have been put in place, and do you believe that the prospect of vaccine passports that large corporations, Silicon Valley, maybe even intelligence agencies, that they could utilize those for nefarious purposes?
It's conceivable. Vaccine mandates have been in place for a long time. Nobody ever questioned them. You want to send your kid to school, they have to have vaccines. Well, it's conceivable that somebody might use that long-standing policy for nefarious purposes, but until the recent radical breakdown in social order, nobody raised that remote contingency. And it's the same today. Yes, of course, it's conceivable. There's no sign of it. They make very good sense. And we should be protecting working people, customers, others, from the threat of those who want to feel free to spread deadly diseases. You should, just as you protect children in school. Take, say, traffic rules. Suppose I say, I don't want to stop at a red light. It infringes on my liberty. Well, I think the community has a right to tell me, if you don't want to stop at a red light, go somewhere else and don't drive on our roads. It could be, you can imagine that the state might use those rules to coerce and control people. But that remote contingency has never occurred to anybody prior to the current social collapse. So yes, that's true of all regulations that communities establish to protect themselves. It's possible that they could be overused, but that's hardly an argument against imposing traffic rules or vaccination requirements for children in schools, or requiring that people who want to, say, go to a restaurant not endanger the employees and the customers by refusing to wear a mask. Yes, same. It's the same, basically.
From a technological perspective, do you find anything, a little worrisome insofar as using these vaccine passports? Or I know in Australia, some folks had to take pictures of themselves or use GPS to report of where their whereabouts are. Again, do you think that maybe any of these could conceivably, be used for nefarious purposes by big tech, by intelligence agencies?
Could be. Even more so, traffic rules. All the surveillance at traffic stops, for example, or along the way, could be used to control people. For example, you can imagine with modern technology that these surveillance cameras put up to catch people speeding and so on might be able to collect personal information about you. And until the modern contemporary period of social breakdown, nobody bothered with that. But it's certainly possible. So let's stop traffic rules. Good idea. Could be used for this purpose.
Are you supportive of Joe Biden and the Department of Labor using regulations to mandate vaccines or proof of negative testing?
What they're doing, it's not requiring. It's requiring either vaccination or regular testing. If people want to feel free to kill others, sorry, community has a right, the workforce has a right to defend themselves against them. If you want to feel free to kill others, go somewhere else.
Well, just to be clear on that statement, so I believe that vaccinated people still can spread the disease, right? So, I mean, conceivably, whether you're vaccinated or not, you can still spread COVID.
Sorry, probabilities are extremely low. Take a look at the hospitals that are overflowing in states like Idaho, Alabama, the non-vaccinated states. The hospitals are overflowing, crushed with almost 100% unvaccinated people, to the extent that hospitals even have to refuse normal procedures. This is really murderous. It's killing hundreds of thousands of people. This is not a joke, quite apart from the enormous social cost. I mean, it's getting to the point where healthcare workers are simply pulling out because it's impossible to survive under the crushing impact of people who refuse to be willing to protect others. Some of them may have valid reasons, but overwhelmingly it's simply people who, because of various scare stories that circulate mostly in the right wing, have made people frightened to take vaccines or unwilling to do so. Partly it's the kind of thing you're talking about, fear that the government might overuse it, just as they could easily overuse traffic surveillance. That one's a cinch. We have the equipment in place already. Yes, so I think that the proposal that workers in a workplace be protected either by vaccination or regular tests, I think that that's a perfectly valid proposal.
So last question on this is in regards to other countries. I know that some voices on the left have been concerned that vaccines are not getting to many third world countries. However, I believe that there also is a great deal of skepticism among those populations where they're saying that they don't want it, especially in Africa. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on there. Why do you think that there is so much vaccine hesitancy in the global South?
The global South, there is overwhelming demand for vaccines. Overwhelming. They are pleading for the West to stop hoarding the vaccines and to let them have them so that they can overcome the terrible effect of non-vaccination. That is the overwhelming majority. Now, the anti-vax movements have been able to pick up bits and pieces of places where people say, I don't want a vaccine. And they can put that up on social media and pretend that's the global South. Global South is the opposite. If we should offer them vaccines. If they don't want to take it, which is extremely unlikely, then it becomes their problem. Right now, it's our problem. It's our refusal to provide them with the vaccines they are pleading for. That's the overwhelming reality, okay? If after we overcome this and provide them with the vaccines, they say we don't want them, something which I doubt very much, then it'll be their problem. No, it's not. No, it's not our problem.
So I guess just one final question on this. When you talk about folks having the freedom to separate if they don't want to abide by these vaccine mandates, what would that look like on a practical level? Does that mean that folks need to just stay home and have like groceries delivered to them? Does it mean like separated communities of folks who are unvaccinated, or just how do you think this would practically play out?
Same way as with people who say that I don't want to accept traffic rules. I suppose there were people who said it's an attack on my liberty to make me stop at a red light. It's government overreach. We don't want the state to have that power over my private life. Well, such people they should have the decency to remove themselves from the community. If they refuse to do that, then measures have to be taken to safeguard the community from them. Then comes the practical question that you ask, how can we get food to them? Well, that's actually their problem. Of course, if they really become destitute, then yes, you'd have to move in with some measure to secure their survival, just as you do with people in jail, for example. But that's really not the issue. The issue is if people say, I want to be a killer, I don't want to stop at a red light, fine, Go somewhere where you're not endangering the community. And since you treasure your liberty so much, find a way to secure it for yourself.